Greetings and welcome to another episode of Travel Without a Cause. This is Matt. I think I got a special one for you today. We're in Ville Platte, Louisiana, and guess where we are? I'll let you think for a second. We're actually at the Swamp Pop Museum, of all places. Yeah, Swamp Pop Museum. And if you're like me, I didn't even know this place existed until about a week ago. And so you guys definitely come and check this out. I'm going to be heading in there in a second, and Sharon and Nancy are going to give me a tour of the place and give me a little brief history of swamp pop music. Then I'm going to show you guys around a little bit. I hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, here we go. All right, guys, well, here we are with Sharon and Nancy with the Swamp Pop Museum, and Sharon's going to tell you a little bit about the history of swamp pop, and then a little bit about the museum itself, and then I'll show you guys around here in a second. So yeah, Miss Sharon, go. What's the history of swamp pop? Swamp pop, excuse me.
First of all, thank you for coming. We're really glad to have you. Swamp pop is a unique kind of genre of music that was born on the prairies and bayous of South Louisiana and Southeast Texas over 60 years ago. I call it either a jambalaya or a gumbo because it's a mixture of different things. It started back in the 50s, early to mid 50s, when teenage boys who were playing music with their dads and their grandpas and uncles and family bands and that kind of stuff began to hear the music of Fats Domino, Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and they said, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to play this stuff anymore, we want to play that new stuff. And so they began to play rock and roll, but it came out different because of their past musical experiences. It was just different from anything else that was being played at the time. And at the time, it was called South Louisiana music. Johnny Allen laughs and he says, we never knew we were playing swamp pop music. And the curious thing is, the name swamp pop came from a music researcher and writer in England. He said, he was talking to his cohorts, and he said, you know, that music, this comes from Louisiana down in the swamps, and this term swamp pop stuck, and it's been called that ever since. And
his name was Bill Miller.
Bill Miller, M-I-L-L-A-R, Bill
Mm-hmm.
Miller from England.
Interesting.
So, so that's a little bit about the history. It was really big from 1958 to 1964. That was the heyday years. There were artists, swamp pop artists who were on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. They traveled with a cavalcade of stars with
Chuck Berry and
Chuck Berry,
Big
Little
Bopper.
Richard, the Big Bopper. It was big time. There were many top 20 hits, some #1 hits on the National Hit Parade that were swamp pop songs performed by swamp pop artists from Louisiana and Southeast.
What's a couple examples of those?
This Should Go On Forever by
This
Rock
Should Go On
Bernard.
Forever.
That was the number 20, I think, in the rock charts.
Running Bear by Johnny Preston, who was from Southeast Texas, was #1.
Dale and Grace were number 1.
Dale and Grace were #1.
Stop and Think It Over.
I'm leaving it up to you and Stop and Think It Over. Both of those were #1s.
Wow.
And there were many others that were
Barbara
in that
Lynn,
top
It Was a
20.
Good Thing.
Yeah.
But I consider that more, I think, more toward the New Orleans Rhythm and Blues, but definitely.
Freddie Fender, too.
Mhm.
Till the
Oh,
Last
yeah.
Teardrop Falls.
I'm familiar with Freddie Fender.
Yes.
Big country star, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But he was considered
Mexican
swamp pop
country
too.
star, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was considered.
What was the name of that song he had?
Before the
His
Next
big
Teardrop
one.
Before the Next Teardrop Falls?
Maybe so. What was another one he
There was
had?
another one.
I saw it performed on. There's a video of it on TV.
I'm blanking. I probably played it a ton at the radio station when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Oh man, it might be the one you're talking about. I don't know, but I know exactly. Yeah, I'm familiar with Freddie Fender for sure.
But they were really big stars. Rod Bernard had stop. I'm leaving it up to you. And he was the first swamp pop star to be on Dick Clark's American Bandstand.
Wow.
No, This Should Go On Forever.
What else?
I'm leaving it up to you, Dale and Grace. But
Dale and
that
Grace,
one.
yeah,
but
yeah.
This Should Go On Forever.
Yeah.
If you ever hear this song, it sounds like he's saying This Should Go On Forever, but that was kind of part of what made it so unique was the way he sang it, but it was a beautiful song, and it was a number 20 in the country.
But he was the first swamp pop star to be on Dick Clark's American Bandstand.
Wow.
He's from Opelousas.
I was never aware of that.
This little red and white shirt is his that he wore when he was 10 years old when he first started singing. The local feed store had a promotion day on Saturdays to try to get customers in, and they would have a band. And when he was 12, he started singing with that they called it the Blue Room Gang.
Wow.
And that was his little shirt.
On some feed sacks or potato sacks or something, he would stand on top of those and sing.
Looks like what they'd wear back in the old Grand Ole Opry days.
Yes.
Right. And it's just amazing to me that he preserved that all those years. You know, that we're
And this
so
is-
fortunate to have it here.
An amp that he used. His son Shane donated this, and Shane's also an author. So Shane is pretty much a swamp pop historian, and that yes, Shane Bernard is Rod's
That
son.
amp right there.
Yeah, and actually my uncle played with Rod quite often. My uncle Charles Knighton, whose keyboard is there, he recorded with a lot of these guys. And I worked with Rod briefly at a radio station in Crowley. Nice guy.
Yeah.
I liked Rod very much.
And
Wow.
so, because of, Ville Platte is designated by the Louisiana legislature as the swamp pop capital of the world. We're very proud of that title. And Mark Lane, who is the manager of KBPI Radio, was the person who was working with our state senator and representative, was instrumental in getting that designation. And so he felt that a museum would be the next step to follow up to the designation. And so it took a lot of time and effort and work, and we finally got this Louisiana Swamp Pop Museum that we're very proud of.
That's very nice, for sure.
We did it, first of all, to honor those musicians, those talented young men and women who created this genre of music, to preserve their music and then hopefully to pass it on to future generations.
And we picked Ville Platte for it just because a lot of it thanks to Floyd Swallow. Because if you look at this panel over here, you can see he produced more swamp pop artists than anybody. This last panel on the wall, but
And because of the designation. too.
right. Well, that's what I mean. Like the what I mean the designation, because we had so many of them come out of Ville Platte area and the Gin record label.
Recorded
And
here.
right. And Floyd had a record factory, so they would do that. And the Gin label, J-I-N, named for his wife Jennifer Swallow. In fact, their son is the fire chief in Ville Platte, Chris. Now that big picture of Warren Storm, I was here the day he brought that in, and he walked in with this giant poster. I said, "Damn, Warren, that's big enough." And he said, "I was a good-looking kid, wasn't I?" I said, "Yeah, you were." He said, "I'm still good-looking." I said, "Yeah, you were."
To me, I want
And
to
there's
say
one-
he looks like Ned Beatty.
I was thinking Warren Beatty,
Well,
like in the old Dobie Gillis. You know, that's what he looks like to me, is the old Warren Beatty.
looking.
Very good-looking guy. Of course, like
I
you
could
said, I'm
see-
still good-looking. You know.
Yeah, I can see the Warren Beatty. I can see that.
I loved Warren Storm. He passed away not too long ago, and he was one of my favorite guys to joke around with.
Well, I know he did a lot of recordings at La Louisiana.
He was
The other
just
blog I
such a
did.
happy guy.
He
really
was. I never saw him upset or anything. He was just so grateful for all his fans and grateful for the reunions and to see all his old friends and bandmates again. And he loved it. He loved every minute of it. Of course, all of these guys did. You know, they're all very grateful. They're always so kind and gracious, and they do it. They come back for the fans and just to have a place, you know, to keep the museum going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and look around, and
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'll
Whatever you need.
ask questions if I need to, but this is some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to...
This painting over here, not to interrupt your YouTube, but this painting over here is of the old Evangeline Club, and that's actually where my parents met.
Oh, really?
But when I say that to people around here, they say everybody's parents met at the Evangeline Club. So. It was a very popular club.
Very popular. It was very popular with soldiers from Fort Polk. Because this Evangeline, I think, was the first wet parish they could get to.
Oh,
The
well,
parish
that'll
was-
attract them for sure.
The big here in Polk was the cold beer and the pretty girls. That was the key.
I see, my dad
Well-
was from Eunice, but he was in the Navy, so he would come back, and he and his twin brother, you know, would come sometimes and date and overhear the ladies.
We've
and
heard stories
they met
about
my mom.
people, guys who were at Fort Polk that would rent a taxi, and they put 5 or 6 of them in a taxi, and they'd come.
Oh,
to the
that reminds me of my old
Club.
military days. We used to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Power in numbers. We would put money into a cab and go all over the place. Or we'd just we'd all pile in somebody's car and go out of town and
Right.
all that stuff. What are these signatures? Are they just visitors or
This
actual
is our
artists and
Swamp
stuff?
Pop Wall of Fame.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Covered with plexiglass, and when someone who is a legitimate swamp pop performer,
I see Johnny Allen in there, yeah.
oh yeah,
Who else?
we ask
West.
them. We're proud to have them sign. Unfortunately, many of the names you see are gone. They're no longer with us.
Clint West. There you go. Clint West. You're just talking about him.
Gigi Shen, another phenomenal
That
performer.
was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Even
Wow.
our Japanese visitor Kaz, as Count D in Los Royal Flames, he signed because he performed swamp pop music in Tokyo, and he performed at our reunion, 1 year.
Matilda. I'm familiar with that song.
That is the #1 swamp pop song of all time.
Yeah, that's probably why
I
it's,
think that's what everybody loves. The most requested, I'd say. And Red Red Wine is another one Charles had done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now Matilda though is considered the swamp pop anthem.
Is it? I mean, I'm very. As soon as I saw it, I was like,
Cookie
I'm
and
familiar with that one.
Cupcakes. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I always love this spotlight. I always joke with everybody who comes. This is from the old Evangeline Club. This is aluminum. Can you imagine? There must be skin cells on here. How hot this
Oh,
thing
touching
got.
that when it was hot?
Oh my god! Like you probably wouldn't be able to pull it back off right
It
away.
still works.
That's really
When I had a
something.
guy call me, I was still working at an office at City Hall at the time, and he said, I don't know if y'all are interested, but he said, I have an old spotlight from the Evangeline Club.
That's cool.
Oh, yes.
Just brings you back in time just looking at it.
Oh,
I
yes.
can't imagine though having to operate that. How hot it was standing next to it.
And wear oven mitts, maybe.
I'm sure.
That's so cool.
This guy was one of the originals.
Phil Phillips?
Yes.
Sea of
And that
Lost.
song has been used in multiple movies,
Yes.
many, many movies. And he got very, very little for it, according to his children. That's the first record I ever bought.
Which one?
This Sea of Love.
Oh, really?
I was 13 years old and I conned my mama out of $1, which was a lot.
Which was probably what bought it back then, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, they were $1.
I was working at our local radio station one time, and we always had this guy who would call for the Kenny Tibbs song. What was it?
Holly Beach?
Yeah, Holly Beach, which is set to the tune of Under the Boardwalk.
Oh.
And one day I was playing it because somebody would call every Friday when they would play swamp pop music all day on KVPI. So I would play it, of course, every Friday. And one day Kenny Tibbs was passing by and he heard it and he popped in and said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you for always playing my song." He's just a super nice guy.
There's a video, and when you get to it, this is stuff in the video. That the cow has the hat on. That's the cow's
Oh,
hat.
that's what you're just talking about.
Yeah.
The Holly Beach stuff.
Holly Beach
Holly
song.
Beach.
Set to the tune of
Cajun
Under the
Riviera.
Boardwalk by the Drifters. Yeah, it's called the Cajun Riviera.
The Drifters did it?
Well, no, they did Under the
They did
Boardwalk.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
So
okay,
it's a
that's right.
parody,
It's a parody,
It's a parody on Under the Boardwalk.
Holly
at
Beach.
the
It
end-
would be a parody if it's got to do with Holly Beach. I hate to say it,
At the
but
end, he says, "How long you have to stay?" He said, "You won first place." He said, "I won first place. I have to stay a week." He said, "And you?" He said, "I won second place. I got to stay 2 weeks at Holly Beach."
Johnny Allen.
I consider Johnny Allen as the ambassador of swamp.
Yeah.
Warren Storm
Ambassador
was
of
the
Swamp Pop?
The Godfather
Warren
was Warren
Storm was
Storm.
the godfather, but I consider Johnny Allen as the ambassador.
What does that make Tommy McLean?
I don't know. The dreamer.
The hippie uncle.
But
So is this a real like working jukebox?
it did. It needs to be fixed. I've talked to the man twice. But the way that came about,
That's really
I
cool
was-
looking.
I was getting it's a 1970s version.
Hair pomade and rat tail comb.
Yep.
Little Alfred. What's the story on Little Alfred? Who's that?
Oh, gifted.
Very gifted.
Yeah.
Singer or also
Singer.
played instruments too? Or
Singer.
real bluesy guy or a lot of soul and all that?
To me, a combination of swamp pop and soul. Really.
That's a good combination, sounds
Yeah.
like.
And you'll notice we have Fats Domino on display just because swamp pop borrowed so heavily from that New Orleans rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
Especially that particular rhythm that Fats Domino had in most of his songs.
Piano triplets.
I love those old 45s like that. I remember my dad being in radio. He had crates full of those.
Oh yeah, my dad too.
That
100 records.
I inherited recently from my grandmother's house a 1970 stereo cabinet.
Awesome.
Sylvania stereo. It has an 8-track in it. The old turntable.
Does it still work?
Yeah, it still works. I need some new. I
Wow.
need to tune it up with the new, stylus and all that stuff. But it still works. Everything works on it. Has that old sound to it still.
Very cool.
Is this from the reunion? These pictures here?
I think that's from the Music Hall of Fame or so. That's who gave us.
That's
Oh, okay,
the
wow.
woman that was going to start the Swamp Pop Museum that never did.
This is really cool over here. This hunk of wax. I didn't want to jump you. I'm sorry. if you need to.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're fine. I'm following you guys.
But whenever we get kids here at the museum, they always point to this and they say, "What's that?" I said, "Well, you take that's a hunk of wax and you press it down on this template, and that's how you make a record." And
Oh,
then
wow.
then they go, "What's a record?" Like, literally these things that you see everywhere. In here.
I've never seen that before. That's really cool.
That's what they call pressing the wax. Making a record is called pressing the wax.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen that in my entire life.
And this is from a Johnny Allen song, right, Sharon? It's Johnny Allen's Ultimate Collection. It's a 45.
That came from our Floyd's wallet.
Wow. That's really interesting. I'm glad you pointed that out. I love those old
Microphones.
these, what do you call them?
Old mics.
I can't remember.
I think that
I was watching something the other day on Sun Records on YouTube, and they were talking about the mic looked just like that, and it was
I went to
one
Sun
that's Elvis.
Studios.
was in June, and in the actual studio where Elvis recorded his first song, plus the $1 Million Quartet, there is a stand microphone.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's still there. You can take pictures with it and
did.
stuff. Yeah, it looks just like that.
Yeah.
Well, Elvis, he was famous already at that time, and he kind of came back off a tour, and there was who was it in there? I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but it was the other three guys that were hanging out doing recordings there, and Elvis stopped in, and there's a recording of them.
Yeah.
There's a recording of them just kind of messing around in there, and they recorded it. And Elvis is messing around on the piano, and you can go. They'll play it for you. It's the four of them. I can't think of the names off the top of my head at the moment, but
put that in.
it's some cool stuff, man.
Are you familiar with the song "Graduation Night"? TK Hewlett.
I'm familiar with TK Hewlett, but I don't know about the song. I might know I might recognize it if I hear it.
Walk down the aisle on graduation night. Is that
Maybe so.
this right here?
I'd have to hear it. I'm very familiar with TK's name, though.
This is the piano that song was written on.
Oh, wow.
Robert Thibodeau,
So he wrote the song on that piano.
No, Mr. Thibodeau was his music
the guy
teacher.
on the left.
Yeah.
And that's his hat, Thibodeau's hat.
Wow.
That's music teacher. And there's still some music in the piano bench.
Yeah, I play every now and then.
Yeah.
One of his sons called me after he died, and evidently nobody in the family wanted the piano. And he said, "We want to donate it to the museum." So me and 6 city workers went to New Iberia and got it.
Can I
glad
lift it up and show the keys?
Sure.
I have this thing where I seem to run into pianos on a lot of my blogs all of a sudden now, so it's going to be a thing, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if you wanted to see, but that's some of the old.
It's
Oh,
like,
cool.
Yeah.
It's like
Wow.
teachers. It's
Yeah, it's some teacher music. It's the adult
teacher
piano
music that he would
student.
teach students.
And he did some religious stuff too as well.
Oh, like gospel and stuff like that?
Sing and celebrate.
Gospel?
Yeah,
Wow.
sing.
Oh, that's man, you
Yeah.
can tell how old that stuff is.
Yeah. And see, my uncle was a music teacher too, so and he played with a lot of these artists. And I love the name of this record company, Blu-ray Records.
Boo-ray.
I don't even know. if I played
Everybody in
Blu-ray,
South
but
Louisiana knows what Boo-ray is. That's
I know
for
what
sure.
it is. I just never played it.
All my grandparents and
Yeah.
they all got together and played that plenty.
Blu-ray Records. And
Swamp.
TK still has a wonderful voice, but now he's just, he can't move around as well, but he still sings phenomenally.
Oh, I'm sure those guys usually don't lose that.
Oh, yeah, and he comes every year to our reunion.
Swamp Pop's popularity in its heyday, and Miss Sharon was telling me just now, guys, that 1964, when the British invasion with the Beatles kind of killed it, or kind of chilled it
Yeah.
out a little bit, and it kind of came back to more of a focused local thing here.
Right, it was. And but the great thing is, what we were saying earlier is that even though around here in Louisiana, more people appreciated kind of the older generation locally, but I get people from
Oh,
all
yeah.
over the world coming, and a couple from England once told me they could fill out a stadium today if they go and play over there.
That'd be interesting if that really
Yes.
happened.
Yeah, I mean, but they say it's extremely popular overseas, especially in
And the
Europe.
guys, you tell me about the Japanese guy. Tell me real quick about the story of him again.
Count D and Los Royal Flames. So his name is Kaz, or that's his nickname rather, but he's the lead singer of Los Royal Flames. But he performs swamp pop music in Tokyo, and his other friends and fellow musicians, some of them do zydeco and Cajun music on the streets of Tokyo. They have just little jam
Wow.
sessions with crawfish aprons and accordions, and it's cute. But one year we
It's
invited.
like being at Randall's or something.
Exactly. Well, before Randall's closed, yeah. But one year Kaz came to perform. I invited him, and he was just thrilled, and he was delighted to come, and he was phenomenal.
Do you speak
Wonderful
good English?
singer. Not the best, but his friend, I'm blanking on his name, started with an A, I think, but he lives in Missouri. So he'd been in Missouri for 30 years, so he was his translator mostly.
Wow.
Yeah. So they
So
came,
barely speaks a lick of English for the most part, but then he
Yeah.
comes and sings swamp pop
Right.
music.
And he understands it, a lot better, but he could sing wonderfully. But a lot of it, phonetic, but he knows what he's singing though.
Wow.
And if you see this map, this is where they've played all over the world. Not every artist submitted their information, but
So there's more than this.
there he is. It's just not everyone submitted. The flags match the ribbons down here. So this is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Warren is the checkered flag. That's Warren Storm, and Johnny Allen's the red. And you see they were in Australia. Warren hopped over to New Zealand to sing. You see one down here in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And that's Johnny Allen. And they were like, "You performed in Antarctica?" He's like, "I was on a cruise ship. It passed by Antarctica. I was singing, so it counts."
It counts.
I swear.
You hear that about all the big, artists and musicians
Yeah.
and stuff. They just sometimes they make a stop on the side of the road and it turns into a small show, and then some
Exactly.
people can always be like, "Oh, I was there. I saw that."
I was there, right?
This
Now,
is
this
so
is
cool.
not exactly accurate because, they just kind of put about where it was because we had some people from Washington
Yeah.
who said, "No, where is this supposed to be? Because there's nothing here. Like, that's just wilderness." We're here. I'm like, well, they're not geography experts, They know about where they played, so they just put a pin in it.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, I wouldn't know where everything
Wow. I
was,
mean, that's
but-
all over the country,
Yeah.
basically.
And a lot in Europe, too. In fact, even Guitar Gable has one right here. It's the green one.
Yeah.
But mostly Warren and Johnny did a European tour. So they went up there.
Wow.
Yeah. But, we've had people from the Netherlands, Sweden, Germany, the UK, France, all come over here. Even Australia, too, Sharon, I think, right?
This is graduation.
Yes, it's TK
This-
Human graduation night.
So if you guys can hear, this is graduation night that Miss Sharon was talking about a while ago.
Composed on that piano.
On that piano that I just showed you guys, with the teacher notes in it.
Yeah.
It all has such a sullen sound to it, like it's so just. You can't be in a hurry and listen to this.
Now, Dale and Grace were very popular, and Dale passed away some years ago. So the old Dale and Grace songs, Grace would perform with her brother Van Broussard, who's up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they would perform at her reunion, and then a couple of years ago, Van Broussard passed away, so she has another brother, and now she performs with him. She's one of the few ladies in Swamp Pop.
Yeah, I guess you don't hear too many of the women's names in it.
And she's so sweet. I love Grace. Tommy McLean. The only time you'll see Tommy McLean without a beard. That picture.
In this one?
Yeah. And earlier we were telling you he just released his first album in over 4 decades.
4 decades.
Yeah. And a co-writer.
That's
and
a comeback
performer.
right there.
Yeah. Elvis Costello's on the new album and some other people as well. But
So yeah, guys, stay tuned for that.
yeah.
When's that going to be released? Do you know?
That just dropped. It just
Oh, it did?
dropped
It released
last
already?
Friday, in fact.
Wow.
Was that August 26th, I think, Sharon? Was last Friday or something? Yeah.
Wow. Elvis Costello.
And he had an article in the New York Times wrote about him, and
Had they worked together before, or is it just a first time thing?
I think it was the first time he worked with Elvis Costello, Sharon. I think, yeah. Yeah, CC Adcock. But he put them all together.
Look at this get up, guys.
Yeah. Oh, Tommy is, yeah, he's a snazzy
Two-tone
dresser.
shoes.
Many times my uncle's band played with him, and I'd go and be a roadie for them sometimes just to get out and do stuff. So I used to see Tommy all the time with my uncle's band.
That's a few levels above what you would ever see me dressed up as. Or
One time Tommy had some shoes that looked like ruby slippers. They were just total red sequins. They remind me of the ruby slippers in the Wizard of Oz.
here's some of the clubs that Swamp Pop music was played in over the years. Most of which obviously aren't around anymore. Well, guys, I thought that was a pretty interesting one if you ask me. Lots of cool information, lots of history, music history, culture, all that stuff. You guys need to come visit this place. It's in Ville Platte, Louisiana. They're open on Fridays and Saturdays from 10 to 3. And actually every year they do a reunion where lots of old, the swamp pop artists and legends that are still around, they come, and it's almost like a small one-day festival here, and that's held on Lundi Gras every year, which is the Monday or the day before Mardi Gras every year. You can buy tickets for it and all that stuff. So like I said, I highly recommend you guys come and check this place out. All the stuff that we showed today and we talked about, you can spend your own time here and seeing it and all that stuff. And yeah, so signing off from the Swamp Pop Museum in Ville Platte, Louisiana. This is Matt with Travel Without a Cause, and I'll hang up here and I'll say see you on the next one.